I think exercise is the single most important longevity drug we have, bar none. If you said like, I want to go deep down the rabbit hole of living longer, what do I need to do? It's like a super well-crafted exercise program that is geared towards strength, muscle mass, and cardiorespiratory fitness.
Discover Dr. Peter Attia's best exercises for staying healthy and fit for life. In this video, the renowned physician and longevity expert shares his top recommendations for strength and cardio training, helping you achieve peak fitness and vitality. Watch to the end as you'll learn how to structure the training through a typical week.
So if you look at low muscle mass versus high muscle mass, what is the improvement? And it's pretty significant. It's about 3x. So if you compare low muscle mass people to high muscle mass people as they age, the low muscle mass people have about a 3x hazard ratio or a 200% increase in all-cause mortality. It's probably less the muscle mass fully doing that, and it's more the high association with strength. And when you start to tease out strength, you can realize that strength could be probably 3.5x as a hazard ratio, meaning about 250% greater risk if you have low strength to high strength. We actually now have pretty good data as to the fact that strength is more important than muscle mass. We just use muscle mass as a good proxy for strength, but if you just focus on strength, that's the metric that matters. It's about a threefold reduction in all-cause mortality when you compare high strength to low strength. It's all defined by given studies. So the most common things that are used are actually, they're used for the purposes of experiments that make it easy to do. And I don't even think they're the best metrics. So they're usually using like grip strength, leg extensions, and like wall sits, squats, things like that. Beth Lewis did the majority of the work to develop this. Beth runs our strength and stability program in the practice. And, basically I just tasked her with like, hey, go out to the literature and come up with all of the best movements that we think are proxies for what you need to be like the most kick-ass, what we call centenarian decathlete, which is the person living in their marginal decade at the best. We don't use a wall sit. We do as just a straight squat, air squat at 90 degrees. And I believe 2 minutes is the standard for both men and women at 40. Okay. So how long can you sit in a squatted position at 90 degrees without support would be a great demonstration of quad strength. A leg extension, how much weight can you hold for how long relative to body weight? Like how long can you dead hang your body weight, stuff like that. I think we have 1.5 minutes is the goal for a 40-year-old woman, 2 minutes is the goal for a 40-year-old man. So we adjust them up and down based on age and gender. We use farmer carries. So we'll say for a male, you should be able to farmer carry your body weight for, I think we have 2 minutes. Right. So that's half your body weight in each hand. You should be able to walk with that for 2 minutes. For women, I think we're doing 75% of body weight or something like that. The tests are, we're talking, it's not like how much you can squat and deadlift. It's like grip strength, dead hang. How long can you do like an air squat? Like what's your quad strength? How quickly can you do 5 reps up and down from a chair? I mean, it's relatively simple stuff. But when you stratify people by those metrics and you compare the highest to the lowest performers, there's just no comparison. And so we have a test that we put our patients through that's 10 exercises. And they're all basically normalized to your body weight and gender. So like a dead hang. So how long can you hang from a bar dead? We hold males to the standard of 2 minutes and females to 1.5 minutes at the age of 40. So then it gets discounted by decade. If you look at cardiorespiratory fitness, it's even more profound. So if you look at people who are in the bottom 25% for their age and sex in terms of V02 Max, and you compare them to the people that are just at the 50th to 75th percentile, you're talking about a 2x difference roughly in the risk of ACM. If you compare the bottom 25% to the top 2.5%, so you're talking about bottom quarter to the elite for a given age, you're talking about 5x, wow, 400% difference in all-cause mortality. That's probably the single strongest association I've seen for any modifiable behavior. The data are unbelievable, right? So everybody knows that if you smoke or have diabetes, your risk of death goes up a lot. But your risk of death from having high cardiorespiratory fitness goes down by much more than your risk of death goes up from smoking or diabetes.
So smoking and diabetes will double or triple your risk of death, depending on the time frame you're looking at. Having very high cardiorespiratory fitness, so having a V02 max that is elite, we would define that as the top 2.5% of the population, compared to below average, is a 5-fold reduction in all-cause mortality, death from any kind. We don't have drugs that have a 5x reduction in mortality.
My VO2 max would be in the elite for my age group. I'm training very deliberately to make sure that it's in that. So I wouldn't consider myself elite at anything anymore, but I still maintain a VO2 max that is elite for my age. The point is, like, you don't have to be a world-class athlete to be elite. There are really good VO2 max estimators online, and you can plug in your activity du jour. So be it a bike, run, or rowing machine, and it can give you a sense of that. Somewhere in my podcast realm, I've got all those charts posted of, like, this is by age, by sex, this is what the VO2 max is in each of those buckets.
You get most of the benefit, honestly, by going from not fit at all to average fit. That gives you 3 of the 5x. I hold myself and my patients to a way higher standard, which is we have a chart that shows all the data by age, by gender, and by VO2 max. And I would say, if you're a 52-year-old male, I'm asking you to have the VO2 max of an elite 42-year-old male. So I want you to be a decade younger, elite. And then we do the same thing with strength metrics. Start with a base of zone 2. So this zone 2 is that lactate thing I was talking about. So your zone 2 is defined as the highest level of aerobic output that you can generate while keeping lactate below 2 millimole. So I think a bike is the easiest way to do this because
stationary or
stationary, just because you can keep it steady state. When you're on the road, you're all over the place. But so if you're on like a stationary bike. And so and also wattage is such an easy metric for people to understand. So how many watts are you putting out, right? So the first thing we would do is say you probably need to be doing at least 3 hours a week of that zone 2, which is building an aerobic base. So 4 45-minute sessions at zone 2, constantly driving it up. And honestly, 1 session of VO2 max training per week. And the best protocol for that is the 4x4 protocol. So that's 4 minutes at the highest output you can sustain. So here you could do it on an air bike or something, right? So you could do what's the highest wattage you can hold for 4 minutes, and then 4-minute recovery, and do 5 of those sets once a week. For zone 2, I mean, it really just matters that you're consistent, but I think most people find you can do a higher output when you're on an air bike in terms of absolute wattage because you are leveraging upper and lower body. It really doesn't matter that much. I mean, you can do this on a treadmill, you can do this on a stair climber, you can do this on 2. Now, if someone's super deconditioned, it can probably be 3 30-minute sessions to start, and they'll see benefit.
You shouldn't be having those arguments until you have your exercise house in order. You shouldn't be arguing about this nuance of your carnivore diet versus this nuance of your paleo diet versus this nuance of your vegan diet, like, until you can deadlift your body weight for 10 reps. Like, then you can come and talk about those things or something. Like, let's just come up with some metrics. Like, until your VO2 max is at least to the 75th percentile, and you're able to dead hang for at least a minute, and you're able to wall sit for at least 2, like, we could rattle off a bunch of relatively low hanging fruit. I wish there was a rule that said, like, you couldn't talk about anything else health related.
So the minimum effective dose, if you're doing nothing, is not that much. You're going to get huge benefits when you go from nothing to probably 3 hours a week. That would be an enormous improvement. I think you'd have to put probably an hour of that into steady state aerobic training, zone 2. I think you'd have to put an hour of that into strength training. I think you'd probably want to put 20 minutes of that or 30 minutes of that across 1 or 2 sessions into high intensity aerobic training. So not HIIT intervals, by the way, but, sort of the longer intervals that are VO2 max appropriate. And then the remainder of that time, call it another, 30 or 40 minutes, spread out at 10 minutes a day into some of the stability training. Doing that for 10 minutes every day is better off than just trying to do it all in one shot. Usually when a person starts at 3 hours per week, it's because that's the only time they're willing to put into it. In one way or another, the training, the load, the ask needs to get more complicated, needs to get more difficult. If you're talking about strength training, that could mean heavier weight. That could mean more reps, more sets, less rest between. For example, at my stage now, I'm not adding time anymore. I am at the limits of how much I'm willing to spend on this. My kids are young. Every minute I'm doing that, I'm not spending time with them, or I'm not, working, or, I'm just falling behind in some other area of my life. So I'm already spending about as much time as I'm willing to spend in the gym. And it's, probably on the strength side, 6 hours a week. So I have to find other ways to add that demand.
If you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more health and wellness tips and tricks. Our goal is to help you live a longer, happier, and more fulfilling life. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.